Farmers Podcast. I am Casey Coggins, joined as always by Alvin Hebert.
What it is.
And Andrew Lira.
What it do.
Another week in NFL. So we're going to just do NFL talk all day. Minus some of our last... what was I going to say? I was going to say subject, but I was like, subject doesn't fucking work there. But we're going to end on Fire, and Dire, and Prophecies, which we haven't done in a while. We're bringing it back. We'll be doing this, going forward again. And so we'll touch on that. But last week was the week of the backup quarterback, essentially. You had, I think, 8 quarterbacks start that weren't the opening or before the season started projected starter. And so, and quite a few of them won this week. You look at guys like Teddy Bridgewater with the Saints, Kyle Allen with the Panthers, Gardner Minshew with the Jags, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones with the Giants. Mason Rudolph didn't have a very good start for the Steelers. I'm missing some. But that's kind of where we're going to start this conversation, is what quarterback made their debut this year. And as I told y'all earlier, Kyle Allen is included, even though he played a meaningless Week 17 game last year. What quarterback that made his debut are you trying to get in on the ground floor, plant your flag? He's going to be your ride or die quarterback. And you expect to see him in the playoffs, leading teams, being a superstar franchise quarterback. The likes of Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees kind of level eventually, or at least stardom. So that's where I want to start, because that was such a hot topic this week. And I think it was mostly because of the start that Daniel Jones had with the Giants. You look at the numbers that he put up, the 2 touchdowns, the two passing touchdowns, the 2 rushing touchdowns, and everybody is trying, not everybody, but a lot of people are trying to backtrack on the hate that was given to him when he was drafted with the number 6 pick. I tweeted out, both things can be true. He can be an awesome quarterback, and they still fucked up the number 6 pick. Both things can be true. He was going to be there with their later pick in the first round.
Oh yeah.
They could have gotten somebody who, hey, maybe would have helped their defense a little bit,
or that offensive line.
They could have done other things at 6 overall instead of taking him. And then still taking him with the 17th pick, or done something else. But they didn't. It was still the stupid move. I'm not going to
justify that.
Yeah, I'm not going to fall off of that take. It was still stupid for them to take him 6. But for all I know, he could be a perennial all Pro Bowl quarterback. But with his and Kyle Allen's performances and things that we've seen this year from these rookies / second year player, I was just curious, who's the guy that you've seen this year that, my pick I was high on before the season started, but it's just, we never really talked about this thing, so I hadn't been able to plant my flag. But I'm just curious, like from what you've seen with these rookies, these young quarterbacks that have made their debuts, like who's the guy like for you, Andrew, that you're saying, all right, I'm in on the ground floor. Like anybody who hops on the bandwagon is going to be behind me.
I'm going with the man, the myth, the mustache,
the legend himself,
Gardner Minshew's mustache. I mean, 5 touchdowns already this season. Not a bad start. It's he catches your attention during the game, but then he keeps it during the week.
He has that swag to him.
He does, dog. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The way he carries himself.
He's got that, I don't want to say white trash. He's got that fucking...
that Uncle Rico meets frat party vibe. That's a good mix. Yeah.
Mix that with the beer cracking.
Yeah. Surprised you didn't say that. Just immediately shotgun a Natty Light.
We're playing beer pong as we're doing
this.
No,
man, we're not shotgunning Natty Lights. We're shotgunning White Claws.
No. As I drink my Smirnoff spiked sparkling seltzer.
So classy.
There's too many S's. Sound like you got a lisp. You might be gay.
So
hey now, just because you have a lisp doesn't mean you're gay.
No, it just means like you get it from sucking the dicks.
not just dick, but the dicks.
The dicks.
All of them.
Take it easy.
So you're other than the hype train of the swag that Gardner Minshew II plays with and carries, like, is there anything else about just his game that makes you say that? Because a lot of quarterbacks can have swag. RG3 had swag. If injuries,
I don't know, man. RG3 is like 2 minutes away from bleaching his skin. There ain't much swag there.
On the verge of Sammy Sosa.
But like he carried himself, like he had the look about him, like he got popular, like not popular, but like his style when he came out of Baylor was a known thing.
And now he's got like, I don't know what to call it. He doesn't have really style.
He's a father of 2, and
I'm a father of 2.
And what do you think?
He's like our age.
He is our age, he is literally our age. I was a
That's what I'm saying.
I was a freshman with him at Baylor, and it's just like he's definitely changed over the years from like he was a flashy person, flashy player. His like rookie year when he won Offensive Player of the Year or Rookie of the Year. And then injuries kind of derailed everything, and you get humbled a little bit.
Did that lead to his CTE? Or maybe he's just in a sunken place?
Well, he's not. I don't think he's in either.
With Kanye? Him and Kanye together?
I don't think Kanye's in a sunken place.
I think Kanye's fucking crazy. That's what
I'm saying.
His sunken place is submerged.
He is the sunken place.
He's more upside down than sunken place.
Upside down world.
Then what would we call Antonio Brown?
Lost cause.
Yeah. fucking out of there.
Fucking Pluto.
Oh, that's a mess, man.
Again, like going back to actually getting to the football talk, because I have Gardner Minshew too, because like I said, like he was somebody who, like, I really liked out of college. I knew he was going to be a late round pick. He had a lot of tools that I like in a quarterback. He makes quick decisions and he's extremely accurate.
We're gonna make a 30 for 30 about him.
He might not be the most mobile quarterback, but one of the things that really like sold me on him was I knew he went to Washington State. I knew he was their starter. I knew that they loved him there. He led them to a great record, and all of that. I knew all of that. I didn't know that he started at like junior college. He was going to transfer to Alabama and be a backup to Jalen Hurts and Tua at Alabama. Mike Leach gave him a call, said, "Hey, do you want to lead the league or lead the nation in passing?" That is literally what they said. Mike Leach told Gardner Minshew, "Hey, do you want to lead the nation in passing? Come to Washington State." He ends up going to Washington State and only plays a year and becomes just this national phenom of personality in play. He just you look at Mike Leach quarterbacks in the past, and they've all been like they all lead the nation in passing yards and touchdowns and all of, like anything you can lead the nation in passing, they do. But a lot of them don't have skills that translate to the NFL. But I felt that Minshew did. So when Nick Foles went down, this similar to the way I felt about when Drew Brees went down. Like, yeah, they might not be able to do all of the stuff that they could do with Foles or Brees, but I don't think that they're necessarily like a terrible team because they lost their starting quarterback. And to see the amount of confidence that oozes out of Minshew, to see the way that he just commands the pocket, commands the team, commands the offense, all of that, it's just obvious that there's something about him that is going to be a starter in the NFL and a very good player in the NFL for years. Alvin, who's your ride or die young QB?
Man, I'm on that Minshew hype.
We're all on
hype
Minshew.
Train also, man. Yeah, like he comes in.
No.
I mean, he comes in. He goes 13 for 13.
It's good that we're all on the same thing.
He almost go 14 for 14, like to set the record for like the most completions in like straight or whatever. But I think it hit the wide receiver's hand and something like that. It gets deflected and it was something.
Yeah.
Like
the only reason he didn't continue that streak was because there was like a drop.
Yeah, it was on his receiver that dropped the ball too. So it wasn't like
a drop can't be on the defender. If it's a drop on the defender, it's just an incomplete pass.
No, I think his receiver deflected the ball or whatever. Like it bounced off his receiver's hands or something like that. He didn't secure the ball.
So. Like I said, it's good that we all landed on the same thing, because one, that just means that we all have kind of the similar ideas about like why we think this guy is going to be this good. And if he does end up being this good, it like solidifies that we actually know what we're talking about on this podcast. But that just leads to a conversation that since we only talked about Minshew with being our like hopping on the bandwagon, planting our flag, ride or die with him, we can just discuss why we didn't choose some of the others. I was close to choosing Mason Rudolph here because similar to the reason why I liked Gardner Minshew, I like Mason Rudolph because he's an accurate quarterback. He has had a lot of reps. And I think that his skill set from Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy translates to the NFL. And I'm not thrown off by the fact that he had such a terrible first game. Like, even though like he threw for the touchdown and like they had a chance at winning that game, he still had a pretty poor game.
I mean, all that pressure that was up in his face though.
Yeah, that didn't help. But I just, Gardner Minshew didn't look incredible his first game starting against Houston, but he led into like it kind of he kind of grew into that game. He grew into the NFL in the span of 5 quarters. So, like, I'm not thrown off the fact that Mason Rudolph didn't look incredible the first game against the 49ers. It's just, I think that there's a lot there to like. How do y'all feel about Mason Rudolph's projection as far as, like, is he going to just be a lifelong backup? Is he going to be can you see him being a starter? If you see him being a starter, can you see him being a top 15, top 10 quarterback in the league? Where do you project Mason Rudolph, Alvin?
Oh, man, I think that's tough because when I saw him go in for Big Ben that game, when Big Ben went out, I was like, man, that guy, he's making like crisp throws and all that. Like, he looked poised in the pocket. But then that game, I was like, I felt bad for him because with all that pressure. But I feel like he could be a starter. I mean, on a team, of course, that doesn't have a quarterback, and like the Dolphins. But I don't see him like in the middle of the pack.
Dolphins
like,
have a quarterback. His name's Tua.
Well, the Dolphins need they need a lot more than a fucking quarterback.
Yeah, and I was but I see him like probably like in the 20, 25 range of the quarterback list.
You see him Andy Dalton.
Yeah, he could put up the numbers, but it won't look great.
Because that's the only reason he's getting numbers is because they're fucking playing catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's kind of where, I mean, Andy Dalton at one point was probably like 13, 14. But it was like for 2 years.
Yeah.
And now I think he's probably in that 20. Like, if I go through every starter for all 32 teams, he's better than what's going on in Miami. He's better than what's going on in with the Jets.
We have a 2 quarterback fantasy team with 10 players, and I don't think he's drafted. I don't think he's on anybody's team.
He's still in the free agent pool.
Here's the thing, though, is I think Andy Dalton's a better quarterback than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen runs a lot more than Andy Dalton.
So he gets you points in other areas.
Bortles was like the number 2 quarterback in fantasy football his second year in the league because they were always behind and he had to throw the ball a lot. Like, just because you're a good fantasy quarterback doesn't mean you're an actual like good NFL quarterback because so many things go into it.
Well, like I was saying about Andy Dalton, like the first 2 weeks, if it wasn't for the hype of like Mahomes and Dak Prescott, like Andy Dalton was like he was up there. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that was just fluky play, but he's also without his best receiver too,
and no run game.
A little bit of a run game.
That showed up this past week.
But Mixon was hurt in week 2, and he wasn't 100%. So, so you have him as a starter, but in the 20 to 25 range. Andrew, your take on Mason Rudolph?
I was thinking just a backup, really. I don't see him. I see him in a Colt McCoy role.
Which
Case Keenum.
I can get into a long rant on how the NFL works with quarterbacks because my quick one on Colt McCoy. He was a rookie in Cleveland. He led them to like 7-9 his rookie season. And for Cleveland, that was like 6 games better. Yeah. He led them to their best season since like Derek Anderson took them to 10-6. In like 2000, their I think third best season of this millennium was with Colt McCoy as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
The next year wasn't as good. I also think that his rookie year was the year that Peyton Hillis was the great white hope in the NFL.
Is that Dr. Disrespect?
Talk about the kid?
No, the streamer.
Sorry, we're streaming the Thursday night football game, and
it is.
It's a fucking Dr. Disrespect fucking commercial.
And it's a commercial.
He put it on the costume for him. Yeah,
the Turtle Beach headsets.
But they just gave up on Colt McCoy so quickly because after his second season is when they drafted Brandon Whedon in the first round.
Yeah.
And like, so Colt McCoy got 2 seasons as a starting quarterback in the NFL on Cleveland. Like, we have to, I can't emphasize.
Cleveland.
Vince Young, same way. Like, he wins Offensive Player of the Year for a rookie. He leads them, I think, a game away from the playoffs his rookie season. The next year, he starts the first 3 games. He gets hurt. Kerry Collins comes in, leads them to the playoffs. And Vince Young never gets his job back.
And plus, you had Jeff Fisher there.
And yeah, which didn't help.
Oh,
but like, it's coaching. They just, like, this wasn't my guy to begin with. Like, that's what happened with Shanahan and RG3. More like, on top of the injuries that RG3 went through.
And wanted to change his play style.
Like, Dan Snyder wanted RG3. RG3 was his guy. But Shanahan didn't like him. He liked Kirk Cousins more.
Yeah.
He did like that.
And so there was a friction there that Shanahan, when RG3 came back from injury, was like, look, you're going to run my playbook. Like, I'm not going to change for you. You're going to have to change for me. And it just fell apart from there. So that's just my little short rant on teams give up on quarterbacks way too early and they don't let them, like, prosper. But if Pittsburgh, with their history of quarterbacks, with their history, like, Big Ben has been a prolific passer for the last 10 years. If he is done for his career because of this elbow injury and just not wanting to deal with it, like Andrew Luck didn't want to deal with it anymore, it would not surprise me to see Mason Rudolph be their starting quarterback for the next 10 years. And in that, like, right around that middle of the pack quality. So, and then really the last quarterback that I wanted to touch on in this whole thing was what do we think about Daniel Jones? I know I talked about how I still think it was the wrong pick. I also still think that he's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. I think, they were playing a terrible Bucs secondary.
Yeah.
That didn't know how to adjust to things. One of his touchdowns was like a 70-yard pass to Evan Ingram, who just broke a tackle and outran everybody.
Man, he ran up the middle on a touchdown for one of them.
I think both of Evan Ingram's touchdowns, because he had 2, were just Tampa Bay sucks touchdowns. And
that explains everything.
That's the game-winning touchdown that he scored. They were in man and they didn't communicate. Tampa Bay didn't communicate what their, like, roles were, and it just left the middle completely wide open with nobody, like, spying the quarterback or anything like that. So I think 3 of his 4 touchdowns were just completely broken defensive plays, and we wouldn't be talking about him being this amazing if Tampa Bay just kicks the field goal instead of takes a delay game, or just makes the field goal. Like, I know that's like, yeah, it's easier said than done, but you have a 29-yard field goal. I think they had a 27-yard field goal.
Yeah, they had a chip shot field goal. And got backed up.
They took a knee to get it in the middle, which lost 2 yards. They take a delay. So they lost 7 yards to back up the kicker, and then they missed the kick.
Did they also say they felt more comfortable further back?
Yeah, Bruce Arians. It's like, he's a better kicker from further back, which is just horribly inaccurate statistically from any kicker in the history of the game. It's like saying, yeah, he's a better shooter from 50 feet than 30 feet. Like, no, he's not. Like, he's not. He could shoot 100 from 50 feet and make 10. And he can shoot 100 from 30 feet and make 30.
We felt very comfortable with him kicking those extra 7 yards. Because we know that the further it goes, the more accurate it is.
You haven't seen him in practice, okay? In practice, he makes them all the time.
When it's indoors at practice and there's no pressure or people around.
To be fair,
he could kick it from across the field.
Yeah.
Some shorter field goals are harder to kick, but that's when you're on the hash and you have to like kick at an angle.
Yeah. When you're in the middle.
But they were literally in the middle. All he had to do was kick it straight. And they backed him up to. It was still only an extra point. Like that's as far that's as far as it was. He went from old extra point to new extra point, and he missed. And we wouldn't be talking about Daniel Jones if this wasn't the case. Like that's just, to me, that's as simple as it is.
It would have been a what if.
Yeah.
But from what y'all did see and what you have heard, same question about Mason Rudolph. Like, what do you see of him? Because my answer is as blunt as I've said it. He's not good. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. That's that. He might end up being a starter just because.
I think he might just spend his whole career in New York.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they have a history of loving trash quarterbacks.
I was about to say, if you look at Phil Simms, is probably
their best quarterback they ever had.
And not to steal the Josh Allen line, because Buffalo is a New York team. We're talking New York City.
That's upstate.
Not Buffalo, because if we include Buffalo, Jim Kelly is the best state of New York quarterback from all three of those franchises.
Most definitely.
Which, not to diminish how good Jim Kelly was, where do we put Jim Kelly on the all-time list of great quarterbacks?
Yeah.
He would be the 5th best Cowboys quarterback of all time.
Behind Quincy Carter.
I was going to say Drew Bledsoe.
The great Quincy Carter.
Dog,
Sean
the other
King.
day I was driving and I saw somebody wearing a fucking Quincy Carter jersey.
John Kitna.
Sean King.
It was wild.
But
somebody was still wearing a Quincy Carter jersey.
That's the state of New York City quarterbacks. Look, Joe Namath won 1 Super Bowl.
It's such a dirty city that they just love trash.
Apparently. They love trash so much that who was it that took a picture of the trash on the sidewalk and talked about the mayor needing to step down?
I don't see that.
But New York City quarterbacks are just not good. Phil Simms is the best quarterback I think the Giants and Jets have ever had.
Not Mark Sanchez?
He might be 3.
I mean, he's the infamous butt fumble. I mean,
Chad Pennington is there. And Joe Namath wasn't a good quarterback.
He just has swag to him.
He was the Gardner Minshew of the 1970s.
True.
Yeah, that swag. Yeah,
and
chinchilla.
He guaranteed that they were going to beat the Baltimore Colts and Johnny Unitas, and it just happened to come true. Doesn't mean that Joe Namath is a better quarterback than Johnny Unitas.
You damn psychic.
But they do love trash quarterbacks. Eli Manning, not a Hall of Famer. Mediocre, never a top 15 quarterback in the league. He won 2 Super Bowls because he's, for whatever reason, 10 times the quarterback in the playoffs than he is the regular season. He had amazing defenses that were able to rush 4 against the Patriots and get pressure. And 2 just miraculous plays helps him win.
Yep,
2 Super Bowls.
A little luck. Sometimes you need a little luck.
So, to steer this tangent back to Daniel Jones, are we all in agreement that he might end up being a starter, but he's not going to win 2 Super Bowls, let alone get to 1?
He's going to be a starter for sure because, He's gonna be with the Giants.
Yeah, he's going to be the Giants starter for some time.
Yeah.
But if you were starting a team out of all the people who started at quarterback this weekend, where would he go?
If I was to what?
Let's say all 32 teams are drafting their starting quarterback right now.
Mm-hmm.
What number does he get picked? And he's out of all the quarterbacks that started this weekend. So it's like Drew Brees is out, Ben Roethlisberger's out, all of that. Like it's the quarterbacks that started this weekend. What number do you pick Daniel Jones?
Number 6.
I mean, if the Giants have the 6th pick,
yeah, if
maybe.
the Giants have the 6th pick, he's going number 6 for sure.
But like, I'm thinking that he's going to be 30 to 32. Like, that's just, to me, that's where he's at.
I mean, we'll say something like that, but like I said, the Giants picked him at number 6, so
but
somebody will be dumb enough.
I'm saying we're drafting him. Like, where would we? Where if? Like,
I don't want that on me.
If if we're drafting like all the quarterbacks, all the starting quarterbacks from this last weekend, like, where do we put him?
I mean,
and I think it's like him, like Josh Allen, Marcus Mariota.
I mean, he'll definitely be the 25 to 32 range.
Mason
for sure.
Rudolph. I think he doesn't crack the 30s.
Yeah, he's.
I don't think like I would. Like, I think with the uncertainty of like, do we really know who Kyle Allen is? Like, yeah. Kyle Allen's down there too.
I mean, like, because you also still got Fitzpatrick. You got Josh Rosen that I'll put below him.
Well, Josh Rosen started, so we can't put Fitzpatrick in there.
Well, Josh Rosen, like, I'll put below him. Like,
but from like, so for me personally, I would put Josh Rosen above him because, like, the problem for me with Josh Rosen is he was in a shitty situation last year with Arizona. If you watch that film, like, he makes incredible throws, but he's just constantly berated by defenders on a team that was trying to be bad. And he's on another team that's trying to be bad, and they got rid of his best receiving weapon, and they got rid of their like best defender. Like their
best offensive lineman
trying to lose. And he's in that back-to-back years. But from what I saw in college and what I've seen in glimpses, like I'm still in the belief that Josh Rosen can be a starter in the league. But he just needs to be in the right situation. He needs a...
I mean, valid points, yeah.
I think if you put Josh Rosen on Tennessee, I think Tennessee's a better team. Because Mariota is just not good right now.
I don't know. I saw what Mariota did to Pittsburgh in the playoffs last year. Like,
Mariota can be amazing. Like, he has it in him.
He does not now. He doesn't.
But like and it's a fear that I think people who are believers in Baker Mayfield are like possibly starting to creep up with him. Is like he holds on the ball too long. His plan B, like this year he looks like he has no plan B. When it goes to plan B, he just like
freezes up. Yeah. He's frozen.
And Jameis is the same way. Like, talent, like, you look at some of the throws that he does, some of the things he can do on the field, and you're like, this guy is a fucking monster at quarterback.
Man, those he was throwing to Mike Evans.
And then you watch him throw this stupid screen pass pick 6, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, that's why, like, I still hold out hope for Josh Rosen, because, like, I think once he's in his second year, if he finds himself on a team that is like, maybe he goes to San Diego. He goes to the Chargers, and backs up Phillip Rivers until Rivers retires and then takes over for Phillip Rivers. Like, I could see that being like a suitable option for him. But I don't think you give up on him just yet. So we have Daniel Jones all in the guard. Like, we're all, he's one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, and the only reason he's starting is because Gettleman is an idiot. Like, we probably are going to look at like a quarterback that I forgot to talk shit about, Trubisky. He's down. He's down at the bottom of that list too.
Yeah. Everyone's seeing that.
But like, it's Trubisky. You know who he was drafted over, right? Who they traded up one spot from 3 to 2 to take him ahead of?
Luka Doncic.
That. Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were both drafted after.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Trubisky. And we could see that happen with like Daniel Jones, because I'm still a believer that Dwayne Haskins, whenever he takes over for Washington, is going to actually be a pretty good quarterback. And we all are. We've planted our flag in Minshew.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it'll be. I mean, it's the quarterback position is cyclical, and there's a lot of quarterbacks that should be in the league for a long time, but they're just giving up on too early. And there are quarterbacks that are,
or they're just in bad situations and can't overcome it. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's kind of like Josh Rosen is going to be a cast off next season because of the situations I just described he was in. Like, he's going to have to be a backup for years before he gets to start again because of like teams just gave up on him.
And they're uber bad.
So let's move on from these debut quarterbacks to who's going to be the fantasy star this week. So the caveat is we get into DraftKings, we go to the position, and the guy that we pick has to be $1,500 cheaper than the top guy, which could possibly kind of throw off depending like who you pick based on the position you went with, because we're only picking one guy. We're not going position by position. So if you're going to go with a wide receiver, you could be looking at, 15 receivers down is when you finally get to $1,500 cheaper than Julio Jones. And same thing with running back. You get 10 running backs down before you get $1,500 lower than Saquon Barkley before his injury, or Zeke Elliott, Todd Gurley type thing. So that kind of, I think, skews it into it being a quarterback thing, because Patrick Mahomes kind of skews the numbers a little bit because he's going to go for so much more than other guys. And then tight end would be another position where you could pick probably the 4th or 5th best tight end starting this week. Because Travis Kelce's just so much more expensive than everybody else. So who's going to be that guy who you draft in daily fantasy because he doesn't cost as much as the top guy and it allows you to fill out your roster? Alvin, who did you go with?
I'm gonna go with somebody I drafted, and it's Will Dissly, tight end for the Seahawks. He's going for 3,600, and I mean, with defenses now focusing on Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, like, it's just been, the last 2 games has just been opening it up for him in the middle. So it's almost like when the Seahawks figured out.
They just traded their other tight end, right? Vanette to the Steelers.
Yeah.
So he's now their main tight end.
Now the main guy, yeah. And I mean, he had hype too going into camp and in preseason that he should be like the main tight end for that team. And I mean, it's paying out because it's almost like when they figured out, like, hey, we got Jimmy Graham. Let's use him. Like,
Well,
hey, we got this guy.
I
Let's
think
use him.
it's funny that, like, if you listen to some of the fantasy shows, podcasts through whoever, like the fantasy guys are like, yeah, Will Dissly looks like he had good numbers because he had that touchdown, but it was literally the most inconsequential touchdown, like, because it was on an untimed down at the end of the game that Seattle was already going to lose because it was just mathematically impossible for them to win. And he gets a touchdown there.
Yeah.
So it boosts his numbers, that it like inflates the numbers. It still counted, but like it was just Seattle could have just needled the ball at that point because they had no way of winning.
It's like empty numbers, yeah.
So,
empty calories.
But I do like the Dissly pick. I do have him in one of my daily fantasies because of that number. He's $3,600, and that allows me to go and draft, two better, like, top tier running backs or top tier running back, top tier receiver, and it helps me round out my fantasy lineup. And
also taking effect, they're playing Arizona.
That I think is another big thing about it. Andrew, who's your fantasy star this week?
My fantasy star, I'm going with Phillip Rivers going against Miami. You got to go down maybe
Enough
six.
said.
You got to go down maybe 6 quarterbacks to find him. But
so technically, he's not $1,500 cheaper. He's $1,300 or something like that. Which, close enough. We don't always have to play by the rules. But yeah, I mean, we could pretty much say starting quarterback against Miami or in starting running. You could start the Chargers. Just start all of them.
Yep, I got Keenan Allen up in there too.
I got Keenan Allen.
Start Keenan Allen. Yeah. If Mike Williams is healthy, start Mike Williams. Austin Eckler gets his last shake at being their lead back because Melvin Gordon's back, but he's not playing this week. And then Phillip Rivers, just start them all. It's like the Chiefs. Like, start the Chargers, start the Chiefs, because they're going to put up numbers.
100%.
Exactly.
Except I'm in a weird position where it's like, I don't want the Chiefs to put up numbers because they're playing the Lions. But I also like to win.
Yeah.
So I'm in a tough position. I went quarterback as well. Mine is Jacoby Brissett, who actually is more than $1,500 cheaper than Pat Mahomes. He plays Oakland. He's coming off a great game last week against Atlanta. It looks like they're giving him more and more responsibility as a passer and like as a quarterback for them. And the thing that scares me is how healthy is T.Y.
With that quad injury?
Yeah, because he did leave. But even then, the 2 tight ends they have, Paris Campbell looks like he's going to be a weapon. Marlon Mack and Naheem Hines are good running backs to have. So I think, and they're playing Oakland. So it's like, while it's not Miami bad, Oakland isn't the greatest defense in the world. And I think Jacoby Brissett's kind of a steal that, like I said, with Dissly, allows you to go with some of the top tier running backs. Like Austin Eckler is $8,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah. Because playing against Miami.
And like Julio Jones, I think, is like $7,500. And it allows you to get both of those guys because you draft low at tight end, you draft lower at quarterback and defense. But I think all 3 of those guys, Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, and Will Dissly, are primed to have, as it shows on the DraftKings lineup, when they go over their projection, they have their little fire symbol.
Yeah.
Speaking of fire,
Hey,
it's back. I just wanted
that segue. It was beautiful.
Speaking of fire,
it was
the-
beautiful.
the return
that's the sound of
of
fire.
On Fire
That's our sound of fire.
and Dire and Prophecies. We haven't done it in a while, so we'll see where we go, where this leads down. Alvin, who's on fire?
Man, I think the Astros, man.
Shit.
That pitching is on fire. Garrett Cole set the record for
Man, I'm so mad about
Ks.
that because I picked Garrett Cole to win the Cy Young last year, and he's gonna win it this year.
Like, I mean, we already know after that trade when they got Greinke, right? Yeah, Greinke.
Yeah,
Yeah, we already knew that pitching lineup was going to be vicious.
Fire.
And and now when it's coming into the playoffs, you just see them. All of them are on point and ramped up, ready for the fucking playoffs, and they're just dominating right now.
yeah. The only thing that I think is scary about the Astros, like for the Astros, is how good Osuna is going to play, or Ozuna. They're like, it's all about your closer.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, like the Red Sox kind of snuck by with their shaky closer spot with Kimbrel because he wasn't lights out. As good as their starting pitching could have was in some games, they still had to sweat out the ninth.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Astros, man, they're just. I think it's going to be Dodgers Astros again.
And I'll love it. I mean, watching the Dodgers just get smashed on again.
You know, I'm going to be rooting for the Dodgers.
Go ahead, because you know I'm not.
You know I'm not. Shit.
I pulled up the. I wasn't sure if we did. What we do, where we do division winners, wild card teams, and all of that. And then I'll put it on Facebook. So before the season started, I just did World Series predictions. I think we talked about division winners and all that around the All-Star break, but I never posted that picture. So I'll have to go dig that up. But our World Series predictions before the season started, Alvin, you put Yankees over Braves. Andrew, you put Astros over Brewers, and I put Brewers over Astros.
Could I change my pick?
No.
It's locked in for life.
So, to just again transition, my fire is the Brewers because
Yes.
you lose Yelich for the year, who's on pace to do something nobody in MLB history has ever done, hit 50 home runs and steal 30 bases. He could have snuck in and stole the NL MVP from Bellinger. They lose him, and then all of a sudden they play their best baseball of the entire season.
Yeah, they only dropped 2 games.
They've won 17 of their last 19. They clinched the playoff spot last night, partly because of other teams' mishaps. But they just are playing lights out, and I don't know if it's one of those things where it's you have to spend so much energy winning every game down the stretch that when you do make the playoffs, you're just burnt out and you get swept in the first round, or if it's one of those things where you're just you coast through the playoffs to the World Series because you just caught fire at the right time, everything's clicking and all of that. So the Brewers are on fire for me. Fuck them. Andrew?
My fire, speaking of baseball and speaking of history and speaking of what could have been, this is what actually happened, and it is the Minnesota Twins.
The Minnesota.
First team to ever hit 300 home runs in a single season.
Oh yeah.
Fucking wild. And I still think we should be juicing.
I told you the Twins are just like sneaky with their shit, man. Just quietly doing things.
Yeah, I mean, they've been it's been an interesting like under the radar because they're not necessarily like under the radar, but
nobody ever talks about them.
One, because they're in the AL Central, which has teams like the Tigers and the White Sox.
Just a trash ass fucking division.
Yeah. So, Cleveland has been good for like 7 years now. That it just
automatically concede the division to them now.
Yeah. But yeah, like you were saying, is like, but then at the end of the year, you look at it and the Twins are like, oh shit, they're like same thing with the Athletics.
Yeah.
Oh shit, they're 3 games out of the wild card picture, except Minnesota is leading their division and looks like they're actually going to win it because I think they're 4 games up on Cleveland with 5 games to go.
Yeah. And as a team, 300 home runs.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the Yankees on who they got, like all the Dodgers and like
the Astros,
their home runs, the Astros, like all these teams with sluggers on their team, but it's the Twins.
Yeah.
That you're talking about.
I feel the same way about like a record like that I did about like Steph Curry hitting 400 threes. Like no shit, they broke this record. Everything has changed so that people break these records. Like it's like there's Bill Simmons is talking about Patrick Mahomes throwing for 60 touchdowns, which has never happened. And I'm like, yeah, it's not in like it wouldn't surprise me if he throws for 60 touchdowns in the next 3 years because all of the rules, everything that's going on is geared to doing that. Like you play like the MLB realized, okay, the only thing that really matters is home runs and strikeouts. Like, and then you have the shifts. And one of the reasons why it's home runs and strikeouts is because of shifts. Because you can't hit the ball into the field because your natural like swing is going to hit it into a spot where a defender is now standing.
Right.
And so all of it goes into it. Like, I'm not surprised that we see the most home runs ever hit. We see the Twins with 300 home runs, and all of that. So that again, it just doesn't surprise me. So, Andrew, we talked about the Twins for you.
Oh, yeah. Cool, good.
We elaborated.
Who's in dire for you?
My dire, I got Jalen Ramsey, man. He wants to get out of Jacksonville, but
that fake, my back hurts.
Yeah, I think I might have the flu. Yeah, I was just like, let the man out.
And now he Doug Marrone said he left the team because he's expecting the birth of his second child. But yeah, he was sick and whatever. But like, now it seems like there's
this is an actual excuse.
Yeah. The problem with it, he's arguably the best cornerback in the league. They're much better with him than without him. What team is trying to trade for him, and what are they willing to give up?
Yeah, and that's the other thing is the asking price. They're asking for what, 2 first rounds?
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
If you're the Chiefs and you have Patrick Mahomes and you don't really need these first round picks because you're set, like you have a talented roster, like are you not giving them 2 firsts and 2 seconds?
But you still gotta pay him next year.
Yeah.
They have I guess since they paid for Frank Clark.
Yeah. And Mahomes is about to get a big extension too.
200 mil they talking about?
Greater than. There's
or
a greater than.
Yeah, greater than.
I don't care how great you are. I'm not about to. I hate that the Lions pay Stafford as much money, and I know comparing Mahomes and Stafford is asinine, but like I'm just saying, like even Stafford shouldn't be making more than $20 million. Like Brady shouldn't, Bree shouldn't, Rodgers shouldn't, Mahomes shouldn't. Like I don't care how great your quarterback is. I would much rather fill out my roster. Like this is something that I wanted to do. And maybe we'll bring, since we brought Fire, Dire, and Prophecies back, we'll bring back smoking session, and this will be my smoking session.
Light 'em up.
Is quarterbacks that won Super Bowls and what their salaries were for that year, like position wise.
A lot of Tom Brady.
Because I'm curious who has never been like top 5 at the position at getting paid.
Trent Dilfer.
Eli Manning, Peyton Manning probably is the highest paid quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But
Denver.
But you're looking if you're looking at
Russell Wilson when he won his Super Bowl, I think he was still on a rookie contract.
Yeah, he was on a rookie contract. Drew Brees, I'd have to look at what Aaron Rodgers was making, but I don't think he was making a lot yet because he was still only in like his 3rd year as a starter. Big Ben, when he won his first, was in his 2nd year as a starter, and I'd have to look at what his contract was when they won it again.
Nick Foles.
So yeah, I mean his contract wasn't much. So I'm like, it's more important about roster building than who the fuck your quarterback is. Like, we all know how I feel about Brady. Like, yes, he's great, but they built this team around him that he hasn't won a Super Bowl without a top 8 scoring defense. If he didn't have the same defense that he had, he would not make it to every single championship game.
The Patriots don't break the bank for anybody.
They did break the bank for their defensive backs. They broke the bank for Stephon Gilmore. They broke the bank for Devin McCourty, I believe. Maybe not like to the same level that
those guys could have got way more money going somewhere else. Yeah.
Well, Gilmore not so. Like, because they brought him from Buffalo.
Yeah, for some reason nobody want Gilmore, which I was like,
what about Darrelle Revis?
They didn't even break the bank for him.
They broke the bank for
they did.
Revis.
Did they? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they paid up for Revis. But like defensive backs are the only people they break the bank for. Like, look at who they pay for, and it's defensive backs. And there's a reason that is. Like, they focus on building a full, complete roster, and they have the like greatest teammate in NFL history in Tom Brady, who is like Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki type. Like,
go.
No. But these guys, they were like, okay, like, I'm going to take less because like we need to build a better team. Like, we need to pay other guys so that we can contend and continue this like legacy of winning. So there's no way I would pay Mahomes that much money. There's just no way. Like, I don't care how great Mahomes is. Aaron Rodgers 2.0. I would rather pay a lesser quarterback less money and have a defense. Because guess what Kansas City doesn't have? The only reason I'm optimistic that the Lions can win this game is because they are better offensively than they were last year, and Kansas City is just not as good defensively. I mean, they're better this year than last year, I think, defensively, but they were just garbage last year defensively. I don't know where we ended up getting to the Mahomes thing as far as in Dyer.
Talking about Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Him
asking prices.
Asking
paying
price.
him.
But yeah, I would definitely, like, I want the Lions to trade 2 first-round picks for him, because one of their weaknesses is defensive backs. You get a guy like that young, pay him now. Like
He's still like what, 26,
I think he's 24.
24? Dang, that young.
Maybe he is 26.
I-
I'll pull that up.
I mean, still super young.
Yeah.
but there are so many teams that I think that should just pull a trigger. Like I don't care what your asking price is. Like
Like the Cowboys, maybe
I was just about to say, like, what's the biggest weakness of the Cowboys?
secondary.
It's probably their secondary.
I'm wondering why they haven't called Eric Berry yet.
Well, because
He's still out there.
injury prone and
But when he's right, that boy right.
right. Yeah. But again, it's just like you'd rather get somebody who's like a proven commodity, and while Eric Berry's a proven commodity when he's on the field, he's also a proven commodity that he's not going to be on the field. So Jalen Ramsey just is about to turn 25.
God damn.
So you're getting arguably the best cornerback in the league, really hitting his prime, and you get him for the rest of his prime. Like, and as long as you win, you don't have to deal with the headaches.
As long as you win.
Yeah.
And
Because that's easy to do.
That's a bylaw in his contract.
the Chiefs are going to continue to win and be in the playoffs for the foreseeable future.
As long as they got Pat Mahomes.
As long as they don't
Healthy.
pay Pat Mahomes $200 million. Because, hey, guess what? Drew Brees missed the playoffs for like 6 years in a row. I think Peyton Manning only missed the playoffs when he was injured in his rookie season. Maybe his second year too. But I think he went 10-6 his second year. Aaron Rodgers missed the playoffs. Like, just because you have a great quarterback doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs, because you have to have a good team on top of that. Sure, a quarterback can spackle some of those holes, but those holes are weak. Like, that spackle is weak. You can just punch a hole right through it again. But the Jalen Ramsey trade request, I think, is one, he should realize how great of a situation he has in Jacksonville, because that defense is incredibly good. He's part of that defense. And if you look at the team that they built on offense with, I mean, if Nick Foles comes back this year, or Gardner Minshew, rises to the level we think he can, like, I think Jacksonville, I picked them to make the playoffs because I was a believer in their roster talent and how good they were. And this was with Foles. I'm not falling off of them because they have Minshew at starting quarterback now. Like, if he can just get his shit together, I think that will be fine. Alvin, you're Dyer.
My Dyer? I'm going to take it a little back to esports. League of Legends. Fucking TSM, bro.
Oh, I never watched the fucking...
Good. You didn't miss shit. Fuck, no Bay Life no more, bro. Like, I don't know what they're doing with their roster and, like, who the fuck's managing them, man. But they go to playoffs. They get kicked by Clutch Gaming in the second round for the second time in, like, three seasons. They go to the gauntlet run so they could still have a chance to make it to the World Tournament, which is the big tournament where everybody wants to go be at. And they get kicked by the same team that they lost in the second round in the fucking playoffs. Like, they didn't learn anything. They did not learn shit. Their whole team is in fucking disarray. They might lose their best player.
So what NA teams are
So
in
I don't
Worlds?
follow League of Legends as close, but I do follow sports close. If you lose to the same team twice, that typically means they're just better than you.
Nah, that team is not better than them. They
just match them. They know how to play them.
they just know how to play against
Yeah,
TSM.
what NA teams made the world?
Cloud9, Team Liquid, and Clutch is in the play-ins to get it.
I've liked Team Liquid.
I mean, Team Liquid got that all-star squad, so...
I've liked them for a little while. I don't know. It's just hard to...
I don't know, but like the fact
NA
that,
doesn't have it.
They don't.
They as
Like-
much as everyone wants to talk about, like, oh, this is NA's year.
I mean,
it's not.
especially when they get imports from like other leagues, like the people from Europe, people from Korea
Look at
coming
LPL.
to NA and play here, and like still,
It's just not the same.
It's still not the same. Like fucking Sunday, like he was considered like the best top laner in Korea, comes to NA, and he's not even playing on the team anymore. They like put some fucking rookie on that squad.
Gets
I'm just
fucking
like, what the
smashed.
fuck?
It's all about fucking synergy.
It is, and I'm like, I don't know. With TSM, they made a change with their jungler position. They put in a rookie, and it just went all downhill from there.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
it's fucking synergy. It's fucking team chemistry. It's
I mean, their mid
bot
laner
lane
who is-
depends on the fucking. You got to be in sync with your AD and your support. They need to be in sync.
And
if
your
you got
jungler.
Pike not hitting
Doesn't
any
it
fucking.
I mean,
hooks.
I guess if these guys are all professionals, that they're pretty good with every character. But like,
Oh no, that's not the
Aren't
case.
there-
Aaron Rodgers fumble.
aren't there like bans like so you
Yeah.
can't choose certain characters.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so
usually
then like if you have the people in the middle lane playing characters that they're just not as good with because their best character got banned. Like that
Champion.
has,
see, but when you got
Champion.
when your mid laner is regarded as probably like the best NA player ever, and his champion pool is like vast pool.
hey, even
Like-
Lionel Messi doesn't have a World Cup, man.
Exactly, I feel you on that. But his team is winning league championships though,
yeah, that is true.
and like they might lose Bjergsen, who is their star mid laner, who's considered the best mid laner in NA, and they might lose him.
Trash.
So I was just like,
Trash.
So my Dyer, going back to baseball, is my team, the Cubs. They set history in bad ways.
what
They
else is new?
they lost 5 straight games by 1 run.
Roland Garner.
They got swept at home in a 4-game series, all by 1 run. The last time that a home team lost a 4-game series all by 1 run, 1919.
And it was the Cubs.
no, it wasn't. But I think it was the Red Sox that year. The thing is that they opened the weekend in a 4-game series against the Cardinals. Before I get to this, another thing. They lost a 4-game series at home against the Cardinals for the first time since 1921. So they opened that series 3 games behind the Cardinals for the division. So if they split, they're down 1 game. No, I guess they'd still be down 3. So they needed to win 3 of 4 to tie or be down 1 game, I guess, at the end of the. I'm really not. I'm just more frustrated than anything. So I'm not trying to ask this right now. But they have an opportunity there at home against the team ahead of them in the division where if they handle their business at home, which they've been a good home team, terrible on the road all season, they're going to be in the division lead. And they get swept. So now they're 7 games out of the division lead, pretty much just now only fighting for a wild card. While on top of this, the Brewers, who were the team behind them for the second wild card spot, are on this incredible 17 out of 19 run. So now the Brewers leap right over them. What did the Cubs do when they're a couple games behind the Brewers for the second wild card spot? They continue to keep losing to the Pirates. They're going to get swept by the Pirates. They've lost 8 in a row. And tonight, I believe, is going to be their 9th or 10th in a row to end the season, which is similar to what happened last year, where towards the end of the season, they just got into a tailspin and got tired. And, I mean, Javi Baez was hurt, got hurt, and Rizzo got hurt, and Bryant got hurt, and Ben Zobrist had been hurt all year, and their pitching has been hurt and up and down and all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of been a year from hell for the Cubs. But they yet still were on the cusp of winning 90 games and being in the playoffs, and they choked it away, like the Cubs of old. And now there's talks about Joe Madden leaving, Theo Epstein leaving, and that this this era of great Cubs teams
It's about to die.
could end. I mean, I don't think so. Like, I don't think it is, because all of their best players are still really young. Like, Chris Bryant's only 26, 27. Javi Baez is 25, 26. Wilson Contreras is young. Rizzo's, I think, 29. So they still have a lot of young players, but the end of this season is pretty bad. Andrew, you want to throw out your prophecy really quick before we get going?
My prophecy was what was it? Oh, Cardinals. We're gonna upset the Cardinals. Gonna finally get their first win against Seahawks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll keep an eye out on that.
And I'm out.
Yeah.
Alvin?
My prophecy. Oh dang, what was that? We just don't got our shit together.
For real. Slackers.
God. Hey, I already said I was a world class procrastinator. I hold that championship belt. Oh. It wasn't even like a dope prophecy. It was something like Daniel Jones was going to show like how bad he is, really.
3 interceptions.
Yeah, I was going to say like 2 interceptions and a fumble, like a lost fumble.
3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Okay. My prophecy is a little more bold. Number 5, Ohio State, playing in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh.
Nebraska pulls up the home upset of Ohio State, which would be a pretty big upset. It would be the biggest win of Scott Frost's return to Nebraska. And that's my prophecy. And as it always did, Prophecies wraps up another week of the Benchwarmers podcast. Andrew has already left the building. I assume that dad duties call. Baby girl.
But of course.
Yeah, still just turned a month, I believe.
Still a baby.
So, I'm Casey Coggins, still here with Alvin Hebert.
Outros.
We'll see y'all next week. We'll do this all over again. And then
comment, subscribe,
all of that.
Hit that like button.
I guess if you're listening to this, you're already on where you listen to podcasts, but go ahead and follow us on Facebook. Just support the cause.
Yeah, man. Keep this thing rolling. Also, we got stuff planned to keep viewers involved with us and everything like that. Yes, so things are coming up.
DraftKings League has been created, and one of the things we're going to do is get T-shirts for the weekly winners. So stay tuned.
We'll take your girl.